And I support anything having to do with Canada because I think they've been one hell of a good ally.
Do you do any business in Canada?
I do a little bit of business with Canada, and the Canadian people are wonderful people, and they're with us 100%.
Finally, a reporter asks Trump, what is the primary concession you want from Canada? And Trump says, I want them to be my friend. And then, of course, that is not really a concession.
Yeah, please.
What's the top concession you want out of Canada? The top concession you want out of Canada?
Concession?
Yes.
Friendship.
But that's not a concession.
No, we're going to be friends with Canada.
Oh my goodness. It's like he's a pre-programmed character in a video game or something like that. But listen, good for Mark Carney.
For national and international security, and to keep our very energetic and dangerous potential enemies at bay, is this land on which we're going to build the greatest golden dome ever built. We're building a golden dome that's going to, just by its very nature, going to be defending Canada. Canada gets a lot of freebies from us, by the way. They should be grateful also, but they're not.
Well, we have more breaking news for you now. U.S. President Donald Trump is taking aim once again at Canada, this time criticizing Canada's building of the Ontario to Michigan bridge. In a post on social media, Trump says negotiations will begin immediately to ensure that the U.S. owns part of the bridge. Trump says the bridge would be entirely owned by Canada, adding that he will not allow it to open unless the U.S. is fully compensated for everything it has given to Canada.
We discussed the bridge. I explained that Canada, of course, paid for the construction of the bridge, over $4 billion, that the ownership is shared between the state of Michigan and the government of Canada, and that in the construction of the bridge, obviously there's Canadian steel, Canadian workers, but also U.S. steel, U.S. workers that were involved. This is a great example of cooperation between our countries. Look forward to it opening. And what is particularly important, of course, is the commerce and the tourism and the voyages of Canadians and Americans that will go across that bridge.
The fact that Canada will control what crosses the Gordie Howe Bridge and owns the land on both sides is unacceptable to the president. It's also unacceptable that more of this bridge is being built with more American-made materials, even more so than what President Barack Obama committed to with the Canadians at the time, at the start of the project. He also believes that the U.S. should own at least half of the bridge, have shared authority over what passes across it, and participate in the economic benefits generated by its use. This is just another example of President Trump putting America's interests first, and so he made that very clear in his call with Prime Minister Carney earlier.
Americans and Canadians are two people, two countries, in my view, sharing one heart. Our destinies are intertwined and they're inseparable, not because of the inevitability of geography, but because it's a choice we've made again and again. The United States chooses to link our future with Canada because we know that we'll find no better partner. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. No more reliable ally. No more steady friend. And today I say to you and to all the people of Canada that you will always, always be able to count on the United States of America. I guarantee it.
Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada.
Donald Trump says he's now eliminating military protection for Canada.
And Canada's been tough on the military because they have a very low military cost. They think we're going to, protect them with our military, which is unfair.
The days of our military sending 70 cents of every dollar to the United States are over. The old relationship we had with the United States, based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperation, is over. It's my solemn promise that when President Trump threatens us again, we will fight back. We will fight back with everything we have to get the best deal for Canada. We will build an independent future for our country, stronger than ever.
So Donald Trump said this evening that he may completely cut out Canada from any future trade deals. And we're really scared. Because right now everybody else in the world wants to trade with us. See, after a year of the Trump administration threatening Canada, we've had enough. We've decided to move on. And we don't need you like we used to need you. And the rest of the world wants to trade with us. And nobody in the world wants to trade with the United States. Donald Trump has killed America. You realize that, right?
Donald Trump has just cut off negotiations between Canada and the United States. Good. How is Canada going to come out on top? We're going to come out on top through patience. I mean, think about it. We're negotiating with a 79-year-old man who eats fast food at least 3 times a week. I don't think we're going to have to be patient for very long. Tick-tock, Don. Tick-tock.
You got your own Vladimir Putin, who is absolutely despised and hated by the world. And by the way, we now have 0 allies in the United States of America in 1 quick week. As our neighbors up north in Canada said, it feels like we're living above a meth lab, is what they've told me.
I just have to say, on behalf of millions of us sane Americans, we are so sorry to the whole world about what's going on, especially to Canada. I live in California, and there is a huge push to secede from the rest of the United States. From California is done. We would love to be part of Canada. We don't want Canada to be here. You don't want to be here, but we would love to be Canadian at this point. We're just so sorry. We don't know what's going on. Nobody's doing anything. Nobody is stopping him. The effing Supreme Court, they gave him immunity. Remember, everybody should be calling the Supreme Court justices and saying, how dare you? This is your fault. You gave him immunity. And I call my reps. Everybody's calling their reps. We have Indivisible. We're protesting, but the news isn't showing it. We're just sorry. Canada, you stay strong. We're sorry.
So family, for decades, Canada and the United States were often described as the closest allies. They share the world's longest undefended border, billions of dollars in daily trade, deep military cooperation, and millions of family connections that stretch across both countries. Now, many Canadians grew up believing that no matter who occupied the White House, the friendship between the two nations would remain steady. But in recent years, you can see something has really changed, family. Increasingly, Canadians are asking whether the relationship is as dependable as it was once. And the rise of the MAGA movement has not merely reshaped American politics. Actually, it has also influenced how many Canadians view their closest neighbor. Now, this is not to say that every supporter of MAGA shares the same views or that one political movement alone determines international relations. Governments, economic conditions, and even global events all play a role, family. However, the political climate surrounding tariffs, trade disputes, national security, and public rhetoric has undeniably created new tensions. And as a result, many Canadians feel that once predictable partnership with the United States has become less certain. And one of the biggest turning points has been the growing emphasis on America First. Supporters see it as putting American workers, businesses, and even industries ahead of international commitments. And critics, however, argue that this approach has sometimes come at the expense of long-standing allies, including even Canada. Now, when tariffs are imposed on Canadian steel, aluminium, or other exports, Canadians really do not simply view them as economic measures. Many interpret them as signals that even close allies can quickly become competitors. And so trade has always been the backbone of Canada-U.S. relations. Every day, enormous volumes of goods cross the border, supporting millions of jobs on both sides. Businesses have built supply chains that depend on smooth cooperation. And when uncertainty enters that relationship, family, companies become cautious, investment investments slow, and even confidence weakens. And even temporary trade disputes can leave lasting impressions because businesses remember unpredictability. Now, beyond economics, trust is perhaps the most valuable currency in any international partnership. And once questions begin to rise about whether agreements will remain stable from one administration to the next, governments naturally begin considering alternatives. And so Canada has increasingly expanded trade relationships with Europe and countries across the Indo-Pacific, not necessarily to replace the United States, but to reduce dependence on a single market. And so diversification has become a strategic priority, and political rhetoric as well also matters. Public statements from leaders often shape how citizens perceive one another, and when political debates include sharp criticisms of allies or even suggest the long-standing partnerships are unfair, people usually notice. And so Canadians who have historically viewed the United States as a trusted friend have become more attentive to changes in tone, and likewise many Americans continue to value Canada as one of their closest allies despite political disagreements, public opinion, which is often more nuanced than headlines suggest.